All right. Welcome to the channel. And boy, I had a good bout of nostalgia today. I watched the 40th anniversary of making of Band-Aid. Do They Know It's Christmas? Which brought back a lot of memories for me being a Gen Xer. So that was kind of an interesting time in my life, but it was also a very interesting time for me in that I was just coming online with popular music at the time. And so a lot of those bands featured in there, Phil Collins playing drums and staying on vocals and, Bono and all that stuff. That was just a huge kind of moment for me going, wow, this is really cool. And at the same time, of course, the We Are the World soundtrack was coming out as well. And, it's just a very nostalgic time. I don't want to get too sentimental, but it just brings back a lot of memories. But in the spirit of today's video, so let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about an inventory of what you have before you go out and purchase a bunch of libraries that you may not need. And so we talk about sample libraries. There's a lot of redundancy within sample libraries. Now, this is a software video more than it is like what hardware should you own. I mean, of course, hardware can be defined as having a really great microphone like this RE20, which is very multi-use for podcasting, also for recording really loud instruments and brass instruments, electric guitars, that sort of thing. It's a vintage mic. It's been around for a really long time. It has a great sound. From your keyboard to your audio interface to what monitors are you using, how are you listening to music, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of hardware stuff that I can also talk about. Do you own a piano? Do you own musical instruments? Do you own, all of that stuff? So this is more talking about the inundated sort of flow of advertisements, especially if you have your metadata set up so that you get every single targeted ad for musical equipment. So much of this stuff can just be overwhelming for most people. And the point of this channel is for me to take you through how I make music, and the what I use is important, but it's almost an afterthought to the process of music. So I'm not thinking of a library as, I'm going to be able to make this kind of music if I have this library. I just think of it as another palette. So it's important to sort of alter your perception of why you need libraries. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in subsequent videos. But for now, I just want to talk about taking an inventory, and it's something we all need to do from time to time. And if we look at the instrument tab, you can see that I've got quite a lot of stuff. So let's start with the Arturia stuff. The Arturia stuff is available via subscription. This is great. If you're looking for vintage synthesizers, they're all here. The vocoder is a real standout, and the Jupiter model is a really good standout for me. There's also a Prophet. There's a Buchla in here. There's a Mellotron, and these all sound really, really good. So that's one bundle. Of course, we have East West, and I'm running the Opus edition, and I'm just going to open this up quickly if it lets me do it. And it's, of course, asking me for an iLok that I don't have plugged in. So let's just give ourselves pause to plug in the iLok. So I'll be right back as I reach down to grab the iLok. And the iLok is plugged in, so I'll reinitiate that. So East West is probably a very affordable option if you're looking for a subscription-based set of libraries that you can use. And of course, I really like Storm Drums because that's a part of just film composing, my workflow. I also like the brass samples that I currently do not have loaded in here. I also like some of the ethnic instrumentation that you get, particularly if we go to Europe. There's a really great cymbalum in here somewhere. Let's see if I can find it, if it's in here. Where is it? Far East. No, it's not here. What's in here somewhere? Let's see. I think it's in Silk. Is it in Silk? Ra or Silk? Gypsy. Cymbalum. And I really like the cymbalum in East West, and it sounds really, really good. If we load it up, let's load it up, and it sounds great. It's great. It's a great thing to have as a buttress in terms of ostinato writing. So anyway, that's an aside. But again, I don't use that much of the East-West stuff. If I'm going to use any of the East-West stuff, it's going to be the brass. I really love the Hollywood Gold brass, but I'm not a big proponent of the strings in this library, but I am a huge proponent of storm drums. I mean, that's just an essential part of everyone's workflow. And storm drums, for those of you who need a bit more familiarization with that, would be something that sounds like this. So this is something we've all heard. I mean, it's just such a classic sort of... I mean, that's been heard in, God, hundreds of film scores. So if you're writing kind of that style of film music, or any film music for that matter, especially for action movies, this is a must-have. So that's a recommendation. But as I go down the food chain, again, it's just taking an inventory. Isotope, of course, we have that. What do we have in Isotope? We have Spectrasonics. We have essay recordings. And so essay recordings are a very interesting set of libraries that are offered by Spitfire that provide a lot of industrial texture, and they're very unique. And insofar as Spitfire is concerned, I'm not a huge fan of the orchestral Spitfire libraries, but I am a fan of all their other really strange, ethereal sort of libraries that they make that are really unique and also very inexpensive. And the essay recordings are just great. They provide so much texture to my workflow, and they're just unique sounds. And they're industrial, they're rough, they're just different. And so I really like the Spitfire stuff for that. Now, for Spitfire audio, I do have quite a few things, but I'm finding myself for small string writing. The Abbey Road strings are great. Fractured strings are really, really cool as idea things, sort of. Sometimes they make it into the final version, but often I'm just improvising with fractured strings to come up with other ideas for string writing. I find it to be a very kind of Kickstarter bundle for creativity. And then Fragile String Evos is a part of my workflow. Again, I have the Cymbalum from Spitfire as well that I really like. And there's just all kinds of things in here that really are cool and fun to work with. For strings, if you take intimate strings, for example, and I'll bring those in, the intimate string library has some really nice flatandos. And again, when you're thinking about string libraries, there's a tendency to sort of focus on there's a tendency just to focus on legato and tremolo. And I often tell students, write with a flattando. That's a different kind of articulation, different kind of expression. So these are, again, libraries that Spitfire makes available that are sort of one-offs, and they're really cool. And you can get a lot out of this. For example, if you use two of these very interesting libraries and you put them together, such as the fractured strings, and I'll just bring that in here, and I'll multi-record. That says a lot. And let's bring in the... so many things, especially the minor second. And these are all key switchable stuff, you know. So again, you know, that's a lot with very little, you know, and so that's another thing. So these fractured strings are just a lot of fun for idea farming, and because they're really sampled legatos going up as evidenced by a third and a minor second, etc. It's a real string articulation, which is very hard to find in the sample library world. So so many things. Yeah. And also the rotations are a lot of fun to work with. So let's find the rotations. Let's find those rotations up. So we have rotations. You know, that's a lot of stuff. So again, flattando and a fractured string idea can really help bring ideas into your brain in terms of directions you should go compositionally. Okay, so let's keep moving here. Again, we're just taking an inventory. So let's pull up another MIDI channel and let's see what else we should look at. Now, you have Vina Ensemble, okay, and that's the host software that you can then load all of these instruments into. It supports all of this stuff, Arturia, Contact Player, etc. So I will often run, if I'm using Mir, for example, and I want to use that spatial environment for all of my string arranging, I'll use all of my contact strings, Spitfire, everything within that framework. So that's another thing that we can talk about. Now, insofar as, let's see what else we have, and then waves, which is just, so this is funny. I use so much of this stuff that I often don't, see what this electric grand is here. I often don't use a lot of these. I've never used this before. That's interesting. This is something I just don't use, and I've had it on the system for a long time, and I've just never used it. So there you go. Now, based on everything that I've shown you, I'm not buying anything this year, and I don't really need to. Between what I can record live and all of the sample libraries that I have, I don't need any more sample libraries, or I'm finding it not to be something that, it's not going to make my writing any better, I don't think. It'll give me different colors and textures to work with, and I have so many textural and colorful things, and I also make a lot of that stuff myself here in the studio, that I find that at a certain point, it's more about the adventure of making things than it is about just purchasing something and just hitting a key. So before you go off into the never land of buying string samples or synth samples, look and see what you have. I mean, just the Omnisphere stuff and the Arturia stuff, that's just a ton of stuff. I mean, again, Omnispheres, which I'm not even using the newest version of. This is just an old version of it here. This, if you go in, for example, to the SoundSource browser within the patch framework, and so we'll kind of load something in here, just sort of arbitrarily, and then we'll go back to A. You know, when you go into the sample world and you open up the sound source browser, I mean, you literally have, you have so many sources of sound. I mean, it's just, it's insane, you know, how much stuff you have to pick from. And again, before you go out and buy a bunch of things, explore all of this stuff. I mean, there's just so much stuff. It goes on and on and on, thousands of things. And I often feel as though, you know, people really get stuck on what should I buy and not stuck on, let me just fully explore everything that I already own. And so this isn't a buying guide, this video. That's not what this is about. This is a assess what you have and ask yourself, do I really need to make that purchase? And it's, you know, the economy, you know, like air conditioners. So, oh, what's this? You know, like, I haven't seen this air conditioner scrape. That's cool. Bowls water. Oh, there's another instance in here. Let me turn this off. Hang on a second. That's cool. You know what I mean? Like, wait, what else do I need? Bode electric guitar. So these are the source. These are the source samples that everything is built off on. Analog tones. I mean, you know, a lot of people, you know, don't get into that whole air conditioner. I want to go back here. Let me turn off the effects because I think we have effects on this channel. Turn that off. Anyway, you get the point. Look at what you have before you go buying a lot of stuff. And that's it. Have a great night. Oh, like and subscribe. Please do that.